Former High Court Judge Sir Richard Henriques carried out a review of the Metropolitan Police's controversial Operation Midland, which ended in 2016 after 16 months without a single arrest. Today, parts of that report, which had previously been redacted, which had previously been unpublished because the Metropolitan Police presumably didn't fancy what it said, have now been published. And it does look like the Metropolitan Police, they say, had an unwarranted and disproportionate belief in Carl Beech, who fabricated claims of a VIP paedophile ring in Westminster around people like Tory, ex-Tory MP Harvey Proctor, Lord Bramall and the late ex-Home Secretary Lord Brittan. It was an absolutely disgraceful episode, egged on by Tom Watson, the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party. We're going to talk now to Lord Janner's son, Daniel Janner, who's a QC, criminal barrister, about how dreadful it all was, but also maybe about how today is showing some kind of justice. Daniel, very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the chance.
No, not at all. I mean, I find this report to be incredible in its way. I found the whole conduct of Exaro News, of Tom Watson over the years to be absolutely reprehensible. This morning in the Times, it says Watson told to quit over his bogus sex abuse claims. And even now, he still says, well, you know, it wasn't up to me to decide whether these were true or not.
Well, what he actually said was, he described Lord Brittan, and I quote, as close to evil as any human being could get. And he also, we're talking about whipping up hysteria here, he said in the House of Commons on the 24th of October 2012, and I quote, he has clear evidence suggesting a powerful paedophile network linked to Westminster.
Yeah.
That evidence, we now know, was based on Nick. And he put pressure on the police in a wholly inappropriate way, which is why he should hang his head in shame and resign.
Well, absolutely, but he just shows no sign of doing that. I mean, what do you think his motivation was? I mean, surely it must be more than just a hatred of Tories. Surely it must be something else.
Well, political gain. He's a very clever political operator, and he succeeded. He became Deputy Leader of the Labour Party. But this scandal has ramifications far beyond Tom Watson. It has ramifications going right up to the higher echelons of the Metropolitan Police. And what we're calling for in my family, in the legal profession, is a judge-led inquiry. This isn't just about important people, VIPs, it's about everybody. Everybody is entitled to have faith in a fair criminal justice system, and not where bizarre, wholly ridiculous claims are accepted as being true. Of
course. And one of the more disturbing things, I think, Daniel, was the way that some of these warrants were obtained as well, because it would appear, and I'm not sure if this is actually in this report today, I think it is, that police sort of misrepresented the evidence that they thought they had, or that they told the judges that they had, in order to get search warrants for the properties.
Which is why it's even more important that a judge takes control of this, decides it, and a judge who's impartial and neutral and cannot be said to be any part of whitewash, such as the IOPC report, which has found that none of these officers are in any way culpable.
No. I mean, on a sort of purely personal level, it must have been horrendous for you and the families of the other men involved to see this happening.
Well, it was horrendous for us because we know my father is innocent of allegations such as the ones that Nick made and such as others made. So it has been horrendous. We have fought the allegations in the civil courts. Sorry, an ambulance just went by. In the civil courts, successfully, the whole lot was withdrawn. But it's been a battle because people say, oh, no smoke without fire. But it's worth remembering that Nick accused my father of raping him in the Carlton Club, a conservative club with conservatives, and he was Labour. Yet the police took this in and described it as credible and true. So it is hurtful, but we in our family, as has Lady Brittan and other families, known the truth, and the truth is starting to come out, thankfully.
Yes, indeed. But, I mean, Nick, as he was Carl Beech, was an incredibly unlikely reliable witness. You know, you just had to take one look at him. I mean, I've been a journalist for a long time, as indeed you've probably been in the legal business a long time. You do get an intuition about certain people. And when I saw some of the allegations that he was making in writing, first of all, I just thought, this just does not read true to me. There seems something wrong. And yet there were people, along with Tom Watson, who were willing to take his word for it.
Well, this went up, as I said, to the very top of the Metropolitan Police. I mean, the early stages of this, it now appears that Cressida Dick herself was involved. And that is why the seriousness of this case cries out for a judge-led inquiry for the sake of everybody, to make sure that everybody in society has faith in our criminal justice system and the police. And by the way, what Tom Watson did was a disservice to genuine victims. Of course, there are genuine victims, and everybody's allegations need to be considered. But when they're patently ridiculous, to take them on board and treat them as if they are true, credible and true, is plainly absurd. And the criminal justice system, post-Savile, swung too far the other way.
Sure. I think they were terrified of getting something else wrong, I suppose. But, I mean, that's no excuse for just inventing something and running with it. Because, you know, aside from anything else, the report, which is coming out today, should have come out some years ago. But it's only because of the work of some other journalists and people like yourself that it's actually finally been published.
Yeah, and Stephen Wright in the Mail in particular. But we are, as a group, fighting this. We're fighting to introduce changes in the legal system. You may have heard that I've founded an organisation called FAIR, Falsely Accused Individuals for Reform, to change the law on anonymity. So we're trying to get good out of this evil.
It really is extraordinary. And what about Priti Patel's involvement? Because she's now spoken about the case. What are you hoping that she might do?
Well, she has said she's referring it to the Inspectorate of Constabulary, which is a good first step. She's plainly taking a grip, and she's not letting this one go. But I hope the pressure will increase. I think it will increase when people have a chance to absorb this report along the lines of a judicial inquiry, as a senior judge coming in and sorting this out for everybody's sake.
And given the lather that the politicians at the moment are getting themselves in over the use of language, you would have thought that there might be some MPs who would call Tom Watson to book on this, wouldn't you?
Well, I think they will. I'd be very surprised. I don't know how the inner workings of the Labour Party are, but they seem to be very complicated at the moment. What is surprising, as far as Tom Watson is concerned, is he takes the moral high ground against anti-Semitism, yet at the same time surely is hypocritical in the way that he's treated Lord Brittan and others.
Yes, exactly right. And as far as some of those people whose careers were ended, I mean, Harvey Proctor's life was turned upside down. He had to move out of the country. I mean, it was absolutely awful. And I know that there have been some, I think, attempts at claiming some kind of compensation, but you can never really compensate people for that, can you?
No, Harvey was directly in the firing line. In my case, it was my father. We knew he was innocent, but he was my father, and he had dementia at the time, which is part of the reason he was picked on. But Harvey Proctor faced the music. I mean, he was accused of 3 child murders and interviewed and risked being charged on this. So he deserves to be compensated. And you mentioned the unlawful searches. Well, there were unlawful searches, as Judge Henriques has said, in relation to Operation Midland. But we also, as a family, suffered an unlawful search of the House of Lords office of my father because the judge was not told he had dementia, and I had power of attorney. So that search was unlawful too.
Right.
Hence, again, my calling out for a judge-led inquiry.
And what would you hope that would then lead to? Because, I mean, in the end, something quite serious has to happen here, doesn't it? People have to be punished, I would say, in some way, shape or form. I don't know whether that means people being fired, losing their jobs, or maybe even being charged with something.
Well, it appears that the officer in charge, Mr. Rodhouse, has been promoted on the back of this.
Of course.
Lord Hogan Howe's got a peerage. I mean, it appears that those at the centre of this have done pretty well out of this, but it's not for me to judge. It's for a judge to judge on all the evidence. And if there are lessons to be learned generally, so be it. If there's specific wrongdoings, well, they need to be looked at properly as well to see whether or not criminal charges have been carried out.
Yeah.
Should be instituted.
Yeah, it's absolutely quite staggering. Daniel, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and I'm sure we'll speak again. Daniel Janner, QC, who is, of course, criminal barrister, son of Lord Janner, who was one of the senior Tory MPs, former Tory MPs, sort of basically accused of the most horrendous crimes, not simply embezzlement, not accused of stealing something from the House of Lords canteen, accused of paedophilia, accused of murder, accused of child rape. I mean, these were absolutely horrendous and ghastly accusations, which, quite frankly, if you had half a brain, you would look at and go, there is absolutely no way that this could be true. But instead of that, you got the Metropolitan Police, egged on by Tom Watson and some other people in the media, right? Metropolitan Police officers, according to this report today, had unwarranted and disproportionate belief in Carl Beach and his fabricated claims. I find it quite staggering that this was allowed to go on, and only now is it being sorted out. £2.5 million wasted. The homes of Lord Bramall, as I said, Lord Brittan, former Tory MP Harvey Proctor, raided on the basis of these false claims. Lives turned upside down. Absolutely horrendous stuff. Just ghastly.